I'm Patty Palmer, president of Palmer Pletch Publishing. I'd like you to meet Linda Wisner and Lynette Ranny Black. They are co-authors of our wonderful new book, Creative Searching for the Home and Other Quick Decorating Ideas. Welcome.
Thank you, Patty. Lynette and I created the book because we wanted to guide and inspire you in transforming your home into a place you love to spend time in. But we had a lot more ideas than we had room for in the book. So today Lynette's going to show you new projects in wonderful new fabrics.
During our time together, we're going to see an exciting new bathroom, a bedroom that sports seasonal makeovers, a beautiful traditional bedroom, and an elegant living room that has a bay window.
Well, Lynette will be showing you a lot of wonderful ideas. If you'd like more detailed information on sewing or serging, you can always refer to our wonderful books and our videos. Well, Lynette, I think it's time for you to go to the cutting table and get started.
Okay.
Look at the deer!
Let's begin our time together today with a discussion on home decorating fabrics. They're completely different from fashion fabrics and some tips that I'd like to point out to you. First of all, home dec manufacturers will create the pattern mixing and the print mixing and the color mixing for you. So you know if you purchase any of these fabrics out of this particular Waverly line that they're all going to go together once you get them to your home. Another tip that the home decorating manufacturers do for us is they provide these circles, and in those circles is a different color, and we know that if we pick a solid color that matches those circles, that will go with the print that it's featured on. Also, these circles will come in handy when it comes time for print matching. Another tip that the home dec manufacturers will do for us is they mark the up direction, the direction that the fabric was intended to be on the wall or on the bed. And they also mark in the selvage the care instruction for the fabric, which in most cases is dry clean only, and that's because of the beautiful chintz finish and the Scotchgard protector. Let's talk now about the necessary tools of the trade. Shears are very important in home decorating. I like many sizes, but my most favorite is the 10-inch shear with a nice long blade. Lets me take big bites at one time, makes cutting very simple. Also the rotary cutting device. We need to remember to use it, especially when we're cutting strips of fabric. Comes in very handy. A carpenter's square is very important in home decorating, available through your lumber yard, and we'll see it in use later. A yard or meter stick is also very important. I like the metal stick because it gives me a nice straight edge and a very fine edge to cut by. A good tape measure is also important, and either English or metric on both sides makes it much easier to use. Another very important tool of the trade is the metal tape measure. I like at least a 12-foot tape measure, but this is what we use to measure our windows, measure our walls, measure our beds. This is a very stable unit that can hold itself up and gives us better measurements than if we use the cloth type tape measure. Hem gauges or seam gauges are also very important. This is the traditional style where you just move the little red knob to the measurement that you're looking for. Or this is a new one that is a lot of fun. And the way you just hold it and measure your seam by each of these different little cutouts. A good bottle of seam sealant is also necessary for stopping the fraying on the edge of fabric. And a good chalk marker, also very important. This is a fun one. It's actually a tracing wheel inside a little refillable tube, so you never run out of chalk. Long pins are necessary for home decorating. I like to use the quilter's length pins. And my favorite pin cushion is a magnetic pin cushion. A lot of fun because you can just run it along the countertop or the floor and pick up those lost pins. As you can see, it doesn't take a lot of tools to do home decorating. What we have is simple and not that expensive. So let's get started on a project now. One of the simplest rooms to decorate is the bathroom. As you can see, I freshly painted this one using the sponge paint technique, but I haven't decorated it yet, so let's go to my sewing room. When planning and cutting your decorating projects, I like to start with the largest item first, which in this case means the shower curtain. But before we start any project, we have to first find the crosswise grain. The best way to do this is to just take a snip into your fabric and then pull the fabric. If it doesn't tear easily, you'll have to pull a thread. This fabric tore quite nicely and is on grain, which is perfect because that means all I have to do is measure from my shower curtain panel length, snip and tear, the easiest way to cut. However, if the fabric is not on grain, you can't straighten fabrics with heavy finishes like this. So that means I need to use my carpenter square and my chalk marker to mark my panel cutting lines. Most tub shower systems are 60 inches wide and 72 inches high. I like to allow about 4 inches of ease in width plus 1 inch side seams. That means we need to have a finished width panel of 64, 65 inches wide is what we're going to be cutting. The fabric itself is only 54 inches wide. That means we're going to have to piece. Now as far as length, the finished panel should be a cut panel should be 78 inches in length. That allows us top and bottom hem. The easiest way to measure is to take your tape measure and measure down right along the selvage as far as you can easily reach, and then mark a location with your chalk marker. Then all I have to do is move my fabric along my table. I said I needed a finish of, or a cut panel of 78 inches, so 45 plus 33, right, is 78. So I'll mark it there, and then snip and tear. Now remember, the panel width that we need is 65 inches, yet this fabric is only 54 wide. So again, we'll need to match. And how I like to match is to add the piece to each side of the main center panel. So let's roll out the rest of our fabric here. And lay the fabric like you would sew it, which is right sides together. This is where our little circles, or in this case it happens to be squares, come in handy. We have to match these square colors with these square colors. Got to make sure you've got your fabric going the right direction. So we're going to match them up right like this. So sometimes it helps if you fold the fabric back and actually be able to see the pattern to make sure that the markings that the manufacturer put on the fabric is in fact the true matching patterns. So we'll just line up our squares and our pattern and pin. Oops, pins are over here. Well, we can't do that because we don't have enough length, so we have to move back to our next panel down here. We would have ended up with one shower curtain panel too short. So we have to move all the way down here and match with this section of squares. Now we've got some drop-off fabric. Pin right on the squares. I have my pattern matched now, so I know that this is where I need to cut from my side panel. So what I like to do is my side panel is only going to be 5.5 inches. I don't want to tear all the way across and waste all that fabric. So I'm just going to measure over 5.5 inches, and I'm going to stick a pin right at that location. That'll remind me to stop tearing at 5.5. Snip the fabric and tear to the pin only. And then we'll snip the fabric at that point and tear down to my 78-inch length. Now, as you can see, I've snipped and torn down to my 78-inch length. So now my side panel is complete. Repeat this process for the other side panel. We've got our panels cut now. We need to get ready to stitch, and when we stitch we want a perfect pattern match. I found that the easiest way to do this is to fold the fabric back and just press a crease into the fabric. Fold enough fabric back that you can actually see what's happening with the pattern. Then we can easily get a perfect pattern match by lining them up, fold the fabric back, and then pin right in that crease to hold it into place. And we'll do that all the way up, and then when we stitch, we'll stitch right along that crease, and we'll know that our pattern will match perfectly. Now let's go sew. Be sure and keep that needle right in the crease to ensure our perfect match. I'd like to show you the proper way to press a seam. First we need to press it the way that the stitch has been formed. So we'll press it flat like this. And then I like to press it to one side, pulling the fabric taut so we don't get a bubble in there. You do that all the way down, and then you turn and see how good you matched your pattern. Isn't that beautiful? Okay, let's get our sides ready to be hemmed now. And a good question in home decorating is when to serge and when not to serge. Because this is an edge of a shower curtain that gets a lot of movement, I'm going to press under a half and then another half. So I'll just press under a half inch, and then we'll press under another 1/2 inch. Make sure we got her. Great. And then we'll top stitch it on the sewing machine to get a real nice sturdy edge to this shower curtain. I prefer to top stitch from the right side rather than the wrong side because I feel I get a straighter line. For these side hems, we'll just use the edge of the pressure foot as our guide. If your machine has the ability to stop with needle down, for home decorating it's very nice to be able to do that because most of the times when you stop it's because you need to get another grip on the fabric. Now we've got our side edges top stitched into place. Now we need to do our bottom hem. To do the bottom hem, we'll press up 1/4 inch and then 1 inch. Get out the seam guide for the inch. As soon as we finish this bottom hem, we can do the top. Okay, let's do the top hem now. Now on the top, we're going to press under 2 inches, interface, and then press under 2 inches again. Okay, we're going to press under 2 inches to get us a crease line. And in that 2 inches, this top 2 inches, we're going to put a medium weight interfacing. And the purpose for that interfacing is to give us some support because we're going to make buttonholes in here to hang our shower curtain from. So we've got our 2 inches. Then we need to interface along that crease. I use a medium weight interfacing. Follow your manufacturer's directions for applying it. And you'll interface all the way across the top. Keeping that interfacing right in the crease will make sure that we have a nice, smooth crease to follow. And then under the 2 inches. Again. And 2 inches again. Okay, now finish the rest of the top edge and then we'll top stitch and create our buttonholes. Again, I like to top stitch from the right side to ensure that I get a nice straight line. I'll line this up underneath to make sure I'm catching my back, And then I'm using a quilt guide here. And I know that as long as I follow along the edge of my quilting guide, I'll have a nice straight line. Now that we've got our top hem top stitch, we can mark buttonhole locations. And we are going to mark our locations by using the vinyl liner that will go onto this shower curtain. Now, I don't want to hear any groans about these buttonholes. This is an excellent place to practice your buttonholes. And on some of these new machines, all those fancy buttonholes, you can try them all out and see which ones you like the best. But let's lay our liner right here on the shower curtain, and we'll take our chalk marker and mark each one of these holes. I like to drop it down from the edge about 1/4 of an inch. And we'll mark the holes. I do it in an X so I know where the center is at. Then I know where to place my buttonholes. Finish marking all the way across, and then we can go do our buttonholes at the locations. Okay, we've marked our buttonhole location. Remember, we need to keep that line of the buttonhole foot right in the middle of that X. That's our location. And then make your buttonhole. Now that we've finished the buttonholes, let's go finish our shower curtain. Okay, let's cut our buttonholes open. I have a couple of favorite methods. One is to use this chisel and block. And you just put it right below the buttonhole, the block below the buttonhole, that is. Use the chisel and just open it with the pressure on the chisel, making sure you don't catch your back tack, and you've got an open buttonhole. Now, if you don't have a chisel and block, another good method is to use a straight pin. Put it right on the end of your buttonhole to keep you from zipping through your bar tack, and then slice the point of the seam ripper right into the fabric and carefully glide it in the middle of your buttonhole, and the pin will stop its movement when you get to the end, and you have another buttonhole. Now that we've finished the shower curtain, let's dress up the toilet. A toilet seat cover and tank top cover is an excellent way to add pizzazz to an otherwise boring fixture, and very simple to do. All we need to do is take a scrap piece of fabric, and I know you've got lots of it in your fabric stash, and we're going to trace around our toilet seat cover, and do the same for the toilet tank top cover as well. Trace around it, add 4 inches all the way around for our casing and extra seam allowance. Then use this tracing to cut out a piece of decorator fabric. This is our pattern. And then there's one more step, and we need a piece of thermolam cut out that is this dimension right here. Now, I kind of cheat on this. If you don't feel comfortable with it, you can create another pattern from this. But I just place my fabric right on top of the thermolam, and then just kind of raise my pattern, and cut where the line is at. I can see my scissors right through the fabric. This is so we don't get extra padding around the lid itself. We just want the padding on top of the lid. Okay. The only area that we don't want that extension is down here where the hinges are in the tank cover, in the seat cover. So we're going to cut off to 1 inch. Then we'll place our pattern and our decorator fabric right sides together and stitch it on the sewing machine, leaving about an 8-inch opening. Okay, now we're going to turn it and press it open. And then we would put in our thermolam in the opening that we left down here. Line it up with the lines back here. Line it up with our little lines that are still showing through our scrap fabric. And then we're going to just top stitch, following along the lines in the fabric. And that gives us this quilted appearance for the top of our toilet seat. The next step then would be just to insert our drawstring. I use a non-stretchy cord like this and this wonderful little bodkin tool, the best way to insert into casings. And then we'll simply finish this off using elastic such as this clear elastic and serge over it, and that gives us some fit for the back of the toilet seat. The drawstrings will fit all around the sides and the top, but the elastic is what fits the back. Now let's stitch on our elastic. You notice I cut my elastic about 2/3 of the size of the opening that it's to be stitched onto. That way I get good pull and good fit onto my toilet seat cover. Slide it underneath the serger and be sure you're catching that elastic with the needle. Lower the needle, then lower the presser foot and serge it on. Serge and pull. Serge a little further, pull some more, and keep it up till you get to the end of your toilet seat cover. Okay, now let's see how this fits. Lay the toilet seat in here and pull on your drawstrings. Looks like Little Red Riding Hood. Then we tie off the strings. And I just usually tuck these up and pin them to make sure they don't fall into the toilet. And here we have our toilet seat cover. Isn't that fun? Making your own decorative towels will ensure that they match exactly what you're doing in your bathroom, and they also add a lot of pizzazz. One of my favorite techniques is to just buy an extra bath towel like this, and out of this bath towel I can get 3 washcloths and a hand towel. And to get that, I use an existing washcloth and hand towel for a pattern. And in my washcloths, I don't like to have these heavy woven bands, so I'll start this before the band. This becomes my patterns. From these patterns are your washcloths. See how we can get 3 of them out? And your hand towels, like this. Then all we have to do is take our scrap fabric, and we know we've got some scrap fabric left, and decide how we want to decorate our towels. Let's look at what we've got here for scrap fabric. We have some interesting pieces left, and what I came up with on the final decision on the washcloth was to take the corner of this fabric, roll edge all the way around the edges of the fabric on the serger using Decor 6 in our upper looper, and on the hand towel we cut a strip out of our striped fabric, rolled edged again on the serger with Decor 6 in our upper looper, and then put it over the top of this heavy band and top stitched it on. Now, if you've looked at decorative towels lately, you've noticed what the cost is, and isn't this a very economical way to create your own towels that are definitely going to match your bathroom? Now let's see how our projects look in the bathroom. Here we are in our finished bathroom. We've installed our toilet seat cover and our tank top cover. Doesn't that look much nicer? Our decorator towels are lying on the countertop, ready for our guests to arrive to visit. The shower curtain has been installed, and I've added one more feature that I'll show you in the next project, and that's the valance. But we'll see that in the bedroom because we've used that same treatment there. The next home decorating project that we're going to accomplish today is a bedroom. But this bedroom is going to be a little different. We're going to do a makeover, a seasonal makeover on the bedroom. Similar to what we do to our own selves, we're going to also do it in our home. This fabric is what will be used for spring, a real nice, cheery, wonderful spring fabric matches what's happening outside with the flowers blooming. And this fabric will be used for fall to give us a more comfortable, warm fall, winter feeling. I think changing rooms for seasonal makeovers is a very viable option for those of us that love change. And with some of the techniques and some of the new notions that are out, storage of the units will be very simple, won't take up a whole lot of space. So let's start first with our spring bedroom. Again, starting with our largest project first, we're going to make our duvet cover. We call it a duvet cover, but what it actually is a comforter cover. Because I like my duvet covers or comforter covers to be a snug fit, I measure my existing comforter, and that is the finished size of my piece of fabric. So as you've noticed, I've already pieced together my fabric as needed to the size of my comforter, which happens to be 87 inches long and 83 inches wide. Now for the back of this particular duvet, I've chosen to use a sheet. Just a sheet purchased from a linen store. And be sure and square your sheet by tearing it to make sure that it is on grain as your fabric is. Then all we're going to do is just make a great big pillow sham, basically. We're just going to stitch right sides together, our front piece to our back piece. We're going to start right here at this seam. We're going to work all the way down, up, all the way around to the next seam down here on this side. And we're going to leave all the rest open. And that way we can clip our corners and turn our duvet cover and press it up real nice. Now I've pinned my duvet front and back together for ease of sewing. And we're just going to stitch it on the machine. But more important than the stitching is really how to handle the mounds of fabric in home decorating. And I have found a simple way to do so is first of all put it in my machine, lower the needle to where I'm going to start. And then I'm just going to drape my fabric over my counter and also over a stool to help with the weight of the fabric. And then we can start stitching. And as we stitch, just rearrange your fabric so that the weight is being held by the counter and by your stool. Okay, now we've stitched our comforter cover, but before we turn it, I want to mention a little tip, and that is to stitch on a piece of snap tape just to the seam allowance of the duvet cover. And then we will stitch on a piece of snap tape, the opposite, remember to make sure it's the opposite piece of snap tape, to the comforter as well. And that way when we insert the comforter into our cover, we can snap it into place. Okay, now we've got our duvet turned and pressed. All we have left is to close our opening, the opening that we left in order to get our comforter inside. We're going to close that opening with the use of snap tape. Very simple to do. All we have to do is top stitch it in. So let's go do that now. Now I've pinned the snap tape to my opening, and all we're going to do is top stitch one line on each side of these snaps using the zipper foot. Okay, I've finished the one side. Now let's do the other side. Now it's time for our next project. A bed is not complete without pillow shams, and what I'd like to show you now is the simplest pillow sham that I feel is possible. All we've done is measured our pillow, which is normally 30 wide by 20 high, added an additional 3 inches all the way around. That's our front piece. For our back piece, we're going to make an envelope backing. So we cut a piece that's about 1/3 wide, plus 1/2 inch for a hem, press a 1/4 inch and then another 1/4 inch and top stitch. Then we have another piece that's 2/3 plus 6 inches. And in this case, we're going to press a 1/4 inch and then 2 inches for an overlap and top stitch down. Then we lay these back pieces on top of our front piece, line up our edges. Then we're going to stitch the two back pieces together, top stitch them together so that we have the proper size to fit the top piece. And here we've done that. Notice we've top stitched our hem, and then we've stitched the two pieces together, down about 4 inches on each side. That'll keep it together when we put our pillow inside so that the envelope backing doesn't pull apart. The next step would be to stitch the front to the back, right sides together, clip our corners, and turn. Here's our turned sham. Isn't that pretty? But we're lacking one more step, and that is to use our quilting guide and top stitch on the machine about 2 1/4 inches away from the outer edges. Here's our completed pillow sham. We've top stitched 2 1/4 inches away. All we have to do is stuff in our pillow. Isn't that a very simple way to make a pillow sham? For other variations on pillow shams, be sure and watch the rest of this video and also see our book, Creative Searching for the Home, and other quick decorating ideas. Decorating has never been easier than it is today with some of the new products on the market, such as these tapes by Gosling Tapes. Gosling Tapes are a very nice product, and see how fine a tape this is. You just stitch it into your project, one stitch at the top, one stitch at the bottom, not stitching between cords. And then you just pull the cords and it creates different designs for you. This particular tape happens to be used for making draperies. Isn't that much easier than what we used to have to do? This one is the box pleat tape, and I'll show it to you a little bit later on in the video. Very exciting tape. It actually makes the box pleats for you. No more measuring and making sure you've done it correct. You just pull the cords and it does it for you. The one we're going to use today, right now, is the 2-cord shirring tape. Again, notice how fine the tape is. We just stitch it into our project, top and bottom, pull the cords, and it does the shirring for us. I've prepared the length 2 1/2 times the measurement of the bed because that's the ratio these cords are meant to go with. Then we just stitch the cord in, top and bottom, and then stitch the tape in top and bottom, and then pull the cords. And as we pull the cords, the project will shear. Isn't that simple? Very simple and very exciting. Another thing I'd like to point out to you is when I stitch this tape in, I leave about 1/4 inch of fabric left. The purpose for this is to either stitch it onto your decking fabric, like the old sheet that goes on top of your box springs and drops your dust ruffle down, or in this case, as we mentioned, we're going to use Quick Track on our bed. So this leaves me enough space to be able to sew on a scrap piece of fabric like this. This is the flange. This will stitch right onto my double dust ruffle, and this scrap piece is what's going to clip into Quick Track. Here's the finished project. In this case, the scrap piece of fabric is a different color, but it is a scrap, serged right on to my dust, and this again is what will snap into Quick Track. Isn't that simple? Let's go gather up our projects, install them, and decorate for spring. I have an old style bed with a very interesting side rail, so I don't want to make a standard dust ruffle that will cover that side rail up. So I'm going to use a product called Quick Track, which is actually created to upholster walls, and we'll show you this product in detail later on. But I'd like to show another use of it, and that's to attach my dust ruffle. It has a self-adhesive backing, and I'm just going to stick it right onto my bed. The Quick Track just snaps open. You slide your fabric into here, and then it snaps shut. To install our dust ruffle, we just slip our fabric flange into the Quick Track and snap it shut. And here's our dust ruffle installed into the Quick Track. Now let's take a look at our finished bed. Our duvet cover is in place. Isn't it beautiful fabric? Our pillow sham with the built-in flange simply top stitched into place. And these shams I didn't talk to you about, but they're just a gathered ruffled flange. Very nice little pillow sham. The roller blind I also didn't talk to you about, but there's a wonderful book out by Judy Lindahl called The Shade Book that covers all details on roller blinds. Excellent book. But what I do want to show you, as I mentioned in the bathroom, was how to create that valance for the shower curtain. Is the same version I'll be using here. Let me show you how to do that. It features the infinity ring, an 18-inch wide strip of fabric, and all you have to do is take your fabric gather it up like this, place the infinity ring over it, and pull the fabric through each one of the rings. Pull out about a poof and pull out a second poof. Now I'm going to attach this to my existing rod using a twist tie. Then I just twist tie it to my rod. Now I have a rod up here already, but the normal way to install this would just be with a cup hook. Once I've got it twisted up, I'll play with my poofs to get my poofs just right. It does take a little bit of playing. You want to hook up the other side first before you finish your poofs. Isn't this a fun and happy room? It's great for our rainy spring weather here in Oregon. Wasn't that spring bedroom pretty? I love those colors, such happy colors. Great for our rainy spring weather. But now let's look at what we're going to do for our fall makeover, our fall winter makeover. Let's cozy our room down into a nice feeling, nice dark room for fall. And these are two of the pillow shams that we'll be featuring today. I'd like you to note that we're going to be doing a double cord with a flange and a pillow sham that just has the double cord. But what's real fun about these is they are reversible. And they're reversible due to this hidden placket zipper. And I'd like to show you how to make that. It's so simple, yet it's kind of fun to be able to reverse your pillow shams. So let's start first on how to work with our hidden placket, and then we'll talk about the double cording and then the flange. Okay, let's start now with showing you how to put in that zipper in a hidden placket. I have my pieces cut for the front and back of the pillow sham. The back of the pillow sham is cut to the same size as the front, and then I've pressed under 1.5 inches here. I've made another strip of fabric that's 4 inches wide, and it too is pressed in half. Now we're going to take our zipper and apply basting tape to it. And just stick the basting tape onto the edge of the zipper on both sides, face up by the way, and then just pull the top of the tape off. Then we're going to take this placket and stick it right onto the zipper. Try and center the zipper in that placket. The basting tape will hold this piece of fabric right to the zipper. Now you'll need to go to the machine and stitch close to the edge here using your zipper foot. Then we'll strip off the other side of the tape and line the pieces up and stick the zipper down to the other side of my backing, like so. Then we need to go to the sewing machine and line up your guides here so that you can top stitch right next to those zipper teeth. And that's how you get your hidden placket. Now let's look at how we applied the cording to our pillow sham. We've put the skinniest cord to the front, stitched it on using the zipper foot to the front of the pillow sham. The heavier cord we've stitched with the zipper foot onto the backing of the pillow sham. But what's real important, and I'd like to show you now, is how to begin and end when dealing with these cords. Okay, to stitch in these cords, we need to first, when we start stitching the heavy cord on, as well as the skinny cords, give yourself about 1 inch before you actually begin stitching. And when you get to the end, leave yourself about a 3-inch overlap and approximately 3 inches here to work with. But see the overlap that we've allowed here? This is very important. Then we're going to take the cover on this cord, pull it back on both sides, and we're going to cut our cords so that they're even straight across. So I'll leave this one as long as I can and just clip the little end, and then about right here, see how they line up? I'll clip the next cord. Then we'll pull this one back over And this one, we're going to pull over and fold under. And this will overlap on our bottom cord. So when we get this all lined up and overlapped, we can go back to our sewing machine and stitch that final amount. Now that we've completed the stitching of our cords, we need to place our two pieces of fabric right sides together. And this is where the tricky part comes in. We need to be able to stitch these two cords together, and it gets kind of bulky. What we need to do is place the two pieces of fabric like this and then stitch just inside our original stitch line. Now your natural tendency, most of you are going to want to use the zipper foot and stitch along the edge with the zipper foot, but that won't do because the zipper foot will keep sliding off the fabric. What you need to do is something that feels a little uncomfortable, but it works, is to use your standard sewing machine foot. Place it right on the top cord, the heavy cord, and you're actually riding on a ridge, but the needle goes down and up, following right along inside this original stitch line. It's going to feel funny, but it works. Our second pillow sham is very similar to the one that we just did. The only difference is we've added a pleated flange. But because we've added that pleated flange, we need to use a different technique for applying our double cord. To do it this time, we have stitched our two cords together first, and then we've applied them in tandem to our pillow sham front. They're stitched together on the pillow sham front because we're stitching our pleated flange onto our backing. So we're going to stitch right along the about a 1/4 inch mark onto our backing fabric. This is easily made. The pleated flange is easily made with a new device called the Perfect Pleater. And I'd like to show you how this works. This little device is reusable over and over again. It simply helps us create the pleats. Using every one of these crevices will give us 1/4 inch pleats. Every other one would give us 1/2 inch, every third, 3/4. What we're going to use is every 1/5 to give us more of a box pleated appearance. I've already got my fabric flange ready. I've pressed it in half to give me a nice finished edge. And then I'm simply going to lay it onto my Perfect Pleater. But I want to lay it on the Perfect Pleater so I have about a 1/2 inch that's not going to be formed. It's hanging off the edge of the pleater. So to form them, we'll just slide it right into our every 1/5. Here's one. Use your fingernails, get it down there nice and deep. 1/5, slide it in nice and deep. Make sure you've got it all the way into your form. Go all the way to the end of the form and hit your pleats with a shot of steam. Now, before we pull this out of the form, we have two options. An option would be to use basting tape, but on some of your heavy finished fabrics, like your home decorating fabrics, the basting tape will not stick. So another method that I like to use better on home decorating fabrics like this is to take my whole form to the sewing machine and stitch right along the edge of the form, catching my pleats like this. And then I can take it out easily and start over again till I have the length of flange that I need to create my pillow sham. Let's finish our fall makeover with our dust ruffle and our window valance. And you'll notice on the dust ruffle it's made just like the spring version. It's a double dust, rolled edged on the bottom, 2 different colors, the flange added for our quick track. The only difference is we've got box pleats instead of shirring. And the box pleating tape is stitched on just like the shirring tape, 1 line on top, 1 line on the bottom. Then when we pull our cords, it forms our box pleats. So just pull our cords, we've got a box pleat. Pull the next cord. You actually start in the middle and work down. So we'd start with one and then form the next. And we've got box pleats. You can press them into place if you want a more tailored appearance like this, or just leave them free-formed. The window valance is created using that box pleating tape as well, stitched in top and bottom, and it's also self-lined. You'll notice I have the decorated fabric as well as the lining fabric together. I've got short valance built in as well as my long side pieces. I've figured my long piece by 2.5 ratio, remember, because each one of these tapes are a 2.5 ratio. The difference is I'm going to form a free form line here, curve this rather than leaving a straight panel. And to do that, I'll just use my chalk marker. And I'll just mark my line, trim along the line, and then take it to the serger and roll edge the two together. Makes a quick work of a window treatment. Why don't you go have a cold glass of lemonade while I do my roll edging, and I'll meet you in the bedroom and let's transform for fall. Here we are in our fall makeover. Now here we see our double dust ruffle using our box pleating tape installed into our quick track. Because of the style of bed that I have, I had to make a box spring cover, and our duvet is a replica of our pillow shams with the double cording. Doesn't that look nice together? Here's our pillow shams, double corded edge, and the one that has the perfect pleated flange. Our window valance, featuring the box pleats by Gosling, is velcroed to the rod. And to finish our windows, our roller blind with a perfect pleated band. Can you believe this is the same room? As a special surprise, remember we made our pillow shams reversible? So all I have to do is flip and decorate, and I'm ready for Christmas. The duvet, we did the same. It too is reversible, but this time we quilted it using metallic thread in the shape of a Christmas tree. And for the window valance, we pinned up a fabric braid and braid swag and wrapped a pillow to look like a package. I love decorating for Christmas. It puts me in the holiday spirit. The bedroom is the most often decorated room, so let's do one more. This window valance will be featured in our next bedroom. But if you notice, it's just a real simple valance. We've got the curtain rod pocket stitched in, hemmed all around. It is lined in a beautiful blue chintz. But the interest is added with the use of these clips. They're called Clip Easies from Clausen, and I'd like to show you how those work. The clips come in two colors, brass and white. We've chosen to use white on the one that we're doing now, and these are the other pieces that come with it. All you need is a square of fabric. It's like a covered button. We just place the covered part onto the square, gather the fabric up, and twist it into a circle. And as we twist, we need to walk out these little wrinkles here. So we just twist it and walk out the wrinkles. And you end up with a little twisty area like this. That's where this ring comes in. You slide it over the twist, and then it snaps down into here. I need to use a pencil to get that to do that, but we just snap it down into the covered button part. Then we can cut off our extra fabric. Open it up to find the hole, then we just slide the clip into that, and it's done. Now let's see how that clip works. See how it's got a clip and teeth? Now all we do is gather the fabric up and then clip it with the clip. And it creates scallops. The next project for this bedroom is closet curtains. It is based on a room that we did for Creative Surging for the Home. It's Eleanor's bathroom. It's her shower curtain, only this time we'll use it for a closet. Since then, there's a new product on the market from Dritz, which is your press-on tapes. Doesn't require any sewing. This whole closet curtain could be made without sewing at all. So I'd like to show you how this works. We've pressed down the top hem already, and then we'll just lap the tape over the top, and you just press it, following the manufacturer's direction. Now I'm not going to take the time to work all the way across the top of this shower of this curtain, the closet curtain. So I'd like to show you one that's already been pressed. Here it is already in. You can see that it really does hold. And we just pull the cords. It's 4 cords. And it shirrs the top of our curtain. It creates the shirring for us. With the help of the paperback fusible web hem tape, we can even create a no-sew hem. All we have to do is take our hem tape and press it down, following again the manufacturer's directions. Lightly press it. Pull the paper. The paper comes off. Then we fold this down and press it back too, and then it will stick. This is the Austrian shade tape. Very nice tape, and it too is a no-sew. But the nice thing about this, we just have to press this on, and then we pull the cords, and it creates our Austrian shade fullness for us. A nice addition to home decorating notions. You'll get the full impact of this gorgeous curtain when we install it. Let's move on to the bed now, and I'd like to show how we did our pillow shams. These shams are just like we've done before, featuring that hidden placket. The only difference is we've added this gorgeous shirred cord. To do that shirred cord, all we've done is cut strips of fabric on the straight grain in this case, because it didn't matter design-wise, and it also conserves fabric. If it does matter design-wise, for instance this stripe, if we use this for our cord, we could cut this on a bias and get a whole different look to that cord. See the candy stripe effect that we could get to our shirred cord. But in this case it didn't matter. Regardless of whether you cut the fabric on the bias or on the straight grain, we do need to seam it on an angle. And this is to reduce the bulk here, so we get a nice even shirring. Now we're shirring over a cord like this. So let's take our cord and our strip of fabric and head to that machine and do that. Now we're ready to make our shirred cord. I've wrapped the fabric around the cord, right sides out, leaving a little bit of extra fabric here at the top that won't be filled with cord. First thing we need to do is stitch through the cord to secure the cord. Stitch across the top to secure. Then just turn the fabric and begin stitching right down the side of the cord. I keep stitching until my hand reaches the wall, and then stop and pull the cord to shirr the fabric. Keep stitching and shirring until you have enough shirring cord for your project. If you shirr as you stitch, you don't end up with miles and miles of extra cord. Let's go install this in the bedroom. Here we go with the exciting part again, the finished room. Here's our window valance. See how it's snapped into place with our Clausen clip easies. Nice little scalloped effect. Our pillow shams with the shirred cording. And I'd like to mention that for our duvet cover, we copied the pillows with the shirred cording, and it is reversible with the candy stripe backing. Now for the dust ruffle on this traditional cherry bed, our bottom dust ruffle is simply quick track to our wood frame as you've seen before. Our top dust is a sheet, an old sheet, that goes between the box spring and mattress, and it's attached to that and then just clipped into place with our Clausen clip easies. And here's the finished look. Isn't that pretty? Remember we showed you quick track? Now I'm going to show you how to use it. We're in Marty's bedroom. She wants a fabric wainscot. Quick track is perfect for that. For full height treatment of fabric, refer to our book. We've done a bedroom full height walls. First thing we need to do is determine our height for our wainscot, and we've determined ours at 32 inches. I've pre-marked our wainscot height. Now we need to find our horizontal level line, and to do that we use a carpenter's level. You move it until you get that bubble exactly in between the two black lines, Then use a pencil and follow right along the top. Now we need to determine our vertical line for our panel. And to do that, we use a plumb bob. I've put a pin right in the cord, stick it right where my panel line is at, panel marking, and let it hang. Let it free hang like this. Then take your level again, line it up with this, move this out of the way so you can see better, with this line here. Just let it line right up with the plumb bob, and then use your pencil and draw the line. Our quick track panel width needs to be 3 inches less than the width of our fabric. As you can see, I've got to cut this quick track, so let me show you how. Quick track needs to be mitered in the corners to fit perfectly, so we cut this using gardening pruning shears at a 45-degree angle from the hinge to the jaws. You can see that we've already created one panel, so let's create another one. Start simply by peeling off the sticky back and stick it up. We've created our miters, so we're ready for our next piece. On the long ones, I don't peel the sticky back all the way because it's too hard to handle. And just stick it up. Carefully following your line. I've completed the bottom and the side, but remember our fabric panel was 54 wide and Quick Track comes 48 wide, so we'll need to piece this last section. An important part of putting up Quick Track is to make sure you have the proper spacing between these two panels. To do that, we just take an extra piece of Quick Track, stick it up flat, and then place our panel right like so. You don't necessarily have to use batting, but for a softer look, we like it. We need a staple gun for this, and some batting. And all we're going to do, you don't have to cut the batting to proper size. Just lay it up there and staple about every 6 to 8 inches. Where you've allowed the batting to go over the Quick Track, just simply glide a pair of shears along the edge of the Quick Track, the hinge side of the Quick Track, and trim it off. There are some wall finishes that nothing sticks to well, and if that's the case, just staple Quick Track on. Okay, we've got our panels up, we've got the batting on, and now we get to put our fabric up. But to put our fabric in, we slide the fabric in the top first, starting about an inch away from the edge, and snap it in. And you work all the way across the top, making sure that we keep our fabric on grain. To get a perfect corner, you notice I've unsnapped my top about an inch, and that's so I can put fabric in top and side piece at the same time, and I'm making this corner like you would make a hospital bed. Remember how we left a gap here to make sure that the Quick Track would snap shut? Now we want to fill that space in so that we don't see the white wall behind there. To do that, we're going to take a strip of fabric like this and a pair of tweezers and just slide it in between the track. And then we see the solid blue behind there instead of the white wall. Now look at our pattern match. Isn't that gorgeous? Here's another view of Marty's bedroom. You can see that we've got our closet curtains put up. It's the split here. Let's take one more view at Marty's room and take a look at our wainscot, which we finished off with chair rail to give it a nice finished appearance. One of the trends in home decorating right now is to soften a modern home with the use of fabric, and this room proves it, don't you think? The living space that we're going to redecorate sports a big, 6-foot bay window. And let's look at a fun way to decorate that bay window. Let's start with the top valance, and we're going to do a double poof. And a double poof valance requires 3 rod pockets and 3 rods. We're going to put a wide rod pocket on top for our continental rod, and then we need a small pocket for in the middle and on the bottom hem for our standard inexpensive curtain rods. Now the middle rod pocket I put on just using a large 2-inch grain ribbon, but you could just use your scrap fabric, serge or finish your edges, and use that for your middle rod pocket. These are not going to show at all. The hem is just turned up, pressed, and stitched. So we have our pockets created, but I want to show you a tip that will save you a whole lot of headaches later on. What I like to do at my seams, where we have seamed our 2 pieces of fabric together, is to fuse, using a fusible web, my seam allowance down to the fabric. So when I'm trying to get this rod in through the pocket, it doesn't get caught into the seam allowance. So just use a fusible web and fuse that down. Then top stitch in all your pockets, and we're ready to go. Lace is all the rage in home decorating now, so let's make some lace cloud shades for our window. When you purchase lace, it comes in a predetermined length. So you purchase it by the length that it's already made, and then the width of that you need would be the yardage. So you just purchase by the yard for the width that you need. When you purchase it at the store, they're going to cut, if it's a panel like this, they're going to cut right in between the panels here, which leaves you with a raw edge. And we need to finish that raw edge because lace is such a delicate fabric. A good way to finish it, since we're making these cloud shades, is with the use of the loop tape from Gosling. Now I've chosen this loop tape from Gosling because it's so fine that it won't show through to the front edge. We just stitch it on the machine right next to this heavier woven area on the lace. Stitch it on both sides, and then go back and fold this edge over the tape and zigzag it, and that will stop any fraying on the edge. Also, to help support the weight of the lace, we need to stitch on a ring at the very top, one of these little plastic rings at the very top. That will help the cording and support the weight of the cloud shade itself. Now here, we've already stitched it on. See how it's stitched? And we've got the little ring at the top, and the cording has been strung through the loops that are pre-made onto the tape, and we just add this extra one for support. We've decided to add a design detail to our cloud shade and have part of our hem at the bottom here hang free. That won't be part of our gathered cloud feel. To do that, we've stopped our loop tape at about 7 inches from the bottom, and we're going to stitch on this fancy new tape from Gosling, which is a ribbon tube tape. And this time we only have to stitch on one side, and that will hold our weight rod. These new products make simple work of a very elegant window treatment. Now it's time for our next project. Circular tablecloths are very popular in home decorating, but can be a bit intimidating, so I'd like to show you an easy way to cut a circle. First, you need to piece your decorator fabric to the proper size for your table, and then fold it in half, and then in half again to quarter. But many of us don't have enough space to be able to create our circle just with the quarter. So let's fold it again, bringing our folded edges together into eighths. This is a much more manageable size to deal with. Now, as you can see, I've used my bodkin again and simply pinned it into my tip of my folded edges. Tied on a non-stretchy cord. And I'm going to use my chalk marker. I wrap the cord around my chalk marker so that it's even with the bottom edge, and then just keeping your line taut, walk along the bottom and create a circle. Now we just have to trim along that line and roll edge on the serger. Let's go install these in our living room. Here we are in our living room. Isn't it gorgeous? Our top poof valance, 2 1/4 inch continental rod, and 2 standard curtain rods are creating this poof valance placed very close together. The side drape we created to extend the color down is simply a top pocket, and then the edges in the bottom are rolled edged. Here's our lace cloud shades. Aren't they beautiful? This folding screen is simply a big pillowcase with little pockets created by a double needle top stitch. It's very lightweight and portable because inside here is foam core available from your art supply stores, which also doubles as a great bulletin board. Our table topping, we have a square top. We did make it reversible so we can do some fun things with the corners, like tie a knot in it, or at Christmas time have a piece of holly coming up. Our slip-covered couch, I did professionally have done. I personally use a professional for slip covering because it frees up my time to create all these other wonderful projects. But if you'd like to create your own slip covers, there's a great series of videos by T&M Creations. Our throw pillows, notice this one, we've picked up the stripe, the floral stripe from our poof valance to create our edge banding. And this little round pillow brings the lace from the curtains down onto our couch. And finally, this is a great throw pillow. Its edge band is created on the perfect pleater, bringing the blue from the table onto our pillow. Isn't this a beautiful room? I've enjoyed our time together, and I hope you've learned some things from this video also.
Lynette, you did a great job. I love what you showed us today.
Thank you. Yes, and you inspired me. And I certainly hope that you inspired our viewers to go and decorate and create beautiful environments. Thank you for joining us, and thank you, Lynette.